That's number one. You kind of reset.
Painful, tender to the touch. May also
Same shoulder length, and the other. Hey everybody, welcome back. Episode number 24. Can you believe it? It's been almost 6 months since we started this. So
exciting.
Congratulations to you. This is Real Health with Brandi and Amir. It is the podcast where we teach you how to feel better, get stronger, live longer, and feel younger.
You do notice he doesn't ask me to fill in the blank anymore. I kept forgetting what to say.
That's true.
So thank you for
I may still do it at some point. Be ready. You got to be ready.
I don't do well on pop quizzes.
This is Brandi Rashidian, my wife and the boss and the leader and the face and the smile and all of that. And I am Dr. Amir Rashidian, a chiropractor. We have a fairly large practice with 2 locations in Frederick, Maryland. And our podcast is about taking news articles and summarizing it for you, and then telling you what it means and how you can apply it to your life, and how to make yourself better, how to make your life better, and so on. And it's actually been it's been a joy, and we love the interactions. We're hearing good comments about
it's really
our
fun.
Wonderful viewers and listeners. So this has been fun. I mean, it's been work, but I actually enjoy it. So thank you for joining us, and I say we jump right in. What do you think?
I think that's great.
Okay, so the first article is from NBC News. Title is Exposure to Chemicals in the Womb May be Linked to Childhood Weight Gain, Study Finds. Babies exposed to a set of common chemicals in the womb may be at higher risk of gaining weight rapidly during childhood. The research, published last week in the journal Environmental Health Perspectives, identified a link between exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals in utero and a rapid increase in a child's body mass index from birth to 9 years of age. The category of chemicals studied includes per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, better known as PFAS.
Now we did a podcast on this, quite a little while ago. So go back and pull up that one about these forever chemicals. Really scary. It's scary what the U.S. is allowing into our products knowingly.
Well, they call them forever chemicals because they don't degrade fast.
Right.
You want things that are biodegradable. That's what's safe for the environment.
And more safe for your body.
So there were also chemicals used in or derived from fungicides and pesticides that they were exposed to. Such chemicals can be found in everyday items, including nonstick cookware, cosmetic products, and plastic food containers, as well as in some meat and fish if the animals were exposed to contaminated land or water.
Which we never know.
They are thought to interact with people's endocrine systems by mimicking natural hormones. So what they're saying is a pregnant woman gets exposed to these things and it affects the baby. And these babies, after birth, they gain weight very rapidly and they become overweight by the age of 9. New findings are based on data from more than 1,900 pairs of mothers and children in Spain, gathered from 2003 to 2008. The women gave blood and urine samples during pregnancy, from which the researchers measured the concentration of endocrine disrupting chemicals in their bodies. Then the scientists measured their children's BMI at several points up to age 9. BMI is a measure of body fat based on one's height and weight, though the metric is not necessarily a good indicator of individual health. The results of the analysis showed that babies with more exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals before birth were more likely to be born smaller than the study group's average, then experience rapid growth during their early years of life. So they're born smaller, less birth weight, but then they gain weight very rapidly because their hormones have been affected by these chemicals. It says a possible reason for the correlation, according to the study's lead author, Parisa Montazeri, is that endocrine disrupting chemicals can mimic or block hormones involved in breaking down food for energy, which can in turn alter the body's hunger cues or sensitivity to sugar and fats. And And so she also said this could explain. It says it also contributes to explaining a piece of the puzzle as to why obesity is on the rise.
Well, I would say that could be one, but let's not. This drives me nuts. That is not the reason why obesity is on the rise. It is a contributing factor.
Well, she does say that. Later, she says this is one aspect that helps
Right.
explain the phenomenon, along with typical sedentary lifestyle and eating.
But if you stopped reading right at that point,
Oh, yeah.
this is why we do this, is because you go, oh, okay, that's the reason for the rise in obesity. No. We know there are several fast food chains. You go and you eat that regularly. Guess what? That's going to contribute to your obesity. Eating foods that increase your inflammatory process, versus reducing that inflammatory process, that's going to contribute. I also want to point out that there are two specific chemicals that they're saying they really looked at as far as these forever chemicals that were contributing to this. But I do want to point out, again, go to environmentalworkinggroup.org, EWG.org, and look at all the cosmetic products that are out there that you would not think also have endocrine system disrupting chemicals in them. A lot of them are baby products. A lot of them are sunscreens that we're told, go out, get a sunscreen and put it on because the sun is carcinogenic. The sun's not carcinogenic. Getting burned and allowing yourself to burn can cause cancer, but also know that some of those chemicals you're putting on your body are carcinogenic, that are supposed to be in something that is protective, but it's not always protective.
Yeah, there is data that commercial sunscreens actually do cause more cancer than the sun does.
Right. So, and we're not saying go outside and get sunburned, right? So we always have to give those caveats, but look at the ingredients, people. Please look at the ingredients, because not only can they be carcinogenic, but they can also be endocrine system disruptors. So pregnant or not, you don't want your hormones out of balance.
Exactly.
It's so important to so many processes in the body.
Exactly. And we have talked about it, pregnancy in the past, and how important it is. There's genetic markers and genetic windows, and the article talks about that. But what it does is it causes, here's the important takeaway of this, is that what you do when you're pregnant affects your child's adult life, because these children are now more susceptible to obesity, fatty liver disease, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes when they grow up.
Mm-hmm. We had read at one point in a study that what a woman eats affects multiple generations of her offspring. Mm-hmm. So what we do, what we eat can change our genetics, right? It can turn things on and off. And that is not just affecting you, but that's going to affect other people in your family that you're giving birth to and their families.
Yep.
So we have to think about that. When a patient comes into us and their health is not where it should be, we know that it's not just affecting them, right? It's also affecting their family, because what we go through, our families experience right along with us. But this is even more so, because we're talking about genetics. We're talking about, those changes lasting.
Here's a simple way of how genetics work. Imagine someone is genetically predisposed to growing a lot of muscle, but you put them on a TV show like Survivor on an island where they have to eat bugs and there's nothing else to eat. Mm-hmm. That person will not grow muscle. Now, genetically, they're predisposed to growing a lot of muscle, but they're not eating the right nutrients. So that's environment affecting it. It's always environment. And that environment is not just outside, internal environment as well. Outside, inside environment. So imagine this. An article literally came out that said, this was in the Huffington Post, it said they discovered the gene for hangovers.
I remember that.
And what the article actually says, believe it or not, most people have it. So you probably have the gene for hangovers. You have the gene for, and so do I.
I definitely
most
do.
likely. I don't know. Maybe I don't. I don't know. I haven't tested it. But here's the fact. You're not hungover, and neither are we. But we have the gene for it.
Right.
The only way you activate that gene is if you drink in excess.
Right.
And then the next day you have the hangover.
Right.
There was a good movie called Hangover.
It definitely was a funny movie.
Don't watch it. I had Mike Tyson in it. Anyways, so these things are found, these chemicals are found in everyday products like stain resistant and water resistant products. They're used in lubricants, in electrical equipment.
Carpets, flooring, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, oil-based paints, floor finishes.
So people often come and they go, "Oh my gosh, it's in everything. What do I do?" Right?
Yep.
How do we reduce this? There's going to be some areas you just can't reduce, right? Like unless you're redoing your flooring and you're actually looking for something that absolutely has none of those forever chemicals in it, I don't even know if that exists. But there are things that we can do every day. For example, if we know that the odds are some of these chemicals are in our plastics that we store our food in, right? Now, unless you heat that plastic up, those chemicals should stay
It's less
contained,
likely, yeah.
right?
You don't leave it in the sun. Don't leave it. Put your food in and leave it in the sun. Don't heat
Don't
it up.
microwave
Don't
your
microwave
food.
plastics.
Yeah, and you reduce those. So there are things that we can do in our lifestyle, every day to be reducing, but very clearly our government needs to decide that some of these chemicals are so bad that they need to be outlawed because they're a danger to our health. Until they decide to do that, which they haven't at this point. So I would say there's probably not a big likelihood that that's going to happen anytime soon. So protect yourself. Do everything you can to reduce your
You don't have
exposure.
to be perfect.
No,
Just don't be careless.
absolutely.
It's very, very simple. Don't be careless. The article talks about how there are so many other research studies in the past that showed the same thing, and I won't bore you with all the results, but it's all the same.
Yep.
We're probably exposed to tens of thousands of these chemicals at any time, of which a smaller subset are probably the most problematic. So that's what one of the experts was saying. And then they suggest, so this Montazeri, who is Parisa Montazeri, who was the lead researcher in the article, she's a mother of two herself, and said that when she was pregnant, she avoided storing food in plastic containers and didn't heat plastic in the microwave. She also cooked with stainless steel pans or cast iron skillets instead of non-stick pans, which can contain PFAS.
Mm-hmm.
And she avoided eating large fish, such as swordfish and tuna, which can contain higher concentration of mercury and chemicals. She further suggested that pregnant women eat organic food when possible because that limits pesticide exposure, and check for parabens and phthalates,
Which are in almost so many shampoos, conditioners, lotions,
personal
soaps.
care products.
Yep.
There it is.
Nail polish. So, but I'm pretty sure if we were to ask this doctor, my guess is she didn't stop once she had the babies.
That's probably her lifestyle.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you're willing
And I don't
to
know
do
if she's
that,
a doctor.
oh, okay. I'm sorry. Researcher. But let's know if we're willing to do that, and we should be protecting our babies in utero. We should also just carry those great habits along with us, because otherwise we're potentially exposing our children after the fact. So, and they don't need it once they're out, knowing that we come in contact with tens of thousands of them sometimes at one time.
Well, because they did a blood test and a urine test of the pregnant woman, but it's possible she had been getting exposed to it on a regular basis, ongoing.
For sure she was.
There are certain chemicals that don't stay in your body more than a day or two. That's what one of the things the article said.
Right.
But if you get exposed to them every single day, then they're in your body every day. Even though they only stay in your body 24 hours, you keep putting them back in.
Exactly.
So now, good news: you have a liver. Liver would detoxify. Your kidneys filter things out. So
take care of your liver.
Yeah, it's a two-stage detoxification process. Liver cleanses are powerful. Do some research. Maybe find a functional medicine doctor to guide you through like a fasting protocol of some sort once a year to cleanse the liver. Cleansing the colon is a good idea as well. Next article is from U.S. News. It says the title is "This is your brain on Zoom." You remember that TV commercial?
Yes.
This is your brain
on, and this is your brain on drugs.
Yeah. And it was an egg.
Yeah.
And the fried egg was your brain on drugs.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Times have changed. Just say no was a common thing. Why don't we do those commercials
because
anymore?
we've legalized drugs.
That's true.
So now we figured out how to make money off of it. So we don't want people to say no.
I actually saw that fentanyl is an FDA approved drug.
It's pretty scary.
It's 50 times more powerful than heroin, 100 times more powerful than morphine.
Yep.
Wow. And I was speaking to a nurse who's a patient of ours, and she said they used it a lot because it really helps with pain control. in a powerful way. But of course
Well, of
it's used
course.
by physicians and nurses in a controlled setting, not on the street. Anyways, back to this. This is your brain on Zoom. New research using sophisticated imaging tools found that the brain activity of people engaged in conversation looks different from that of two people conversing on Zoom.
I don't know if I'm surprised by this.
In this study, we find that the social systems of the human brain are more active during real, live, in person encounters than on Zoom. I don't know. Maybe the obvious, I don't know. I mean,
I don't think I'm surprised.
no, this is kind of like
Well, so we do I know we're jumping into this, but we do a class for our new patients, right? We ask them to watch this. We used to have it live. We used to do it a couple times a week, or at least once a week, and we would invite everyone to come and be in person for that,
Yeah.
so that we could, educate in a way that we can't do on a
like
per
a
visit
health
basis.
talk, telling our patients how can you get the most out of your care and how do you get
Yeah.
better results in a faster way.
Right. Well, then COVID happened, right? And we had to stop doing that. Now we were essential.
We did on Zoom for a while.
Yeah, we did it on Zoom, live on Zoom.
Yep.
And then we ended up going to a recorded version. But I guarantee you, if we really asked our patients to be honest with us, majority of our new patients probably have not watched this to its fullest.
Yeah. Well, I remember on Zoom, people didn't turn off their camera, and I bet they were washing dishes or something.
Oh, yeah. You're definitely not engaged at the same
But
level.
I mean, this is talk because they used special technology, so these people actually did engage and interact.
Yeah.
But it was still different in their brain
It
as
is.
it was, when they were on Zoom. So the researchers noted that human brains are finely tuned to process facial cues during in-person encounters. In this study, which recorded neural system responses in the two types of conversations, increased neural signaling among participants in face-to-face conversations was associated with increased gaze time and wider pupils.
Mm-hmm.
See, and then, like you've heard of the concept of pheromones,
Mm-hmm.
where people have this, like, is it a scent? It's something that they attract it to each
Yeah.
other. And then, and I don't think it's a sexual thing either. Like sometimes, like you meet someone and you instantly go, I think I like this person. It has nothing to do with
It's like a connection.
It's not a sexual attraction. It's just like you're attracted to their personality.
Right.
But I don't think that would happen on Zoom. And I think
No.
it's because there's more to it than just the interaction, eyes and facial expressions. I think there's a whole lot more to it.
Well, it is because they actually go on to say that the investigators also found more coordinated neural activity between the brains of the individuals conversing in person.
They were in sync.
Yeah, so I find that so fascinating and not surprising again, because I think about like engaging in one of those really like great conversations, and you're just like you're talking to somebody and you're in it, and they're in it, and
Yeah.
the conversation is just
And
amazing.
time just flies by.
Yeah, remember that was our first date.
That was our first
We
date.
closed down the restaurant. I don't
We
know if you
did.
remember that. Of course, he is the brain. He remembers everything. Go ahead.
I don't remember the name of the restaurant. I know it was in Columbia.
It'll come to me.
Not the country Columbia, but Columbia, Maryland. Overall, the dynamic and neural social interactions that occur spontaneously during in-person interactions appear to be less apparent or absent during Zoom encounters. Online representations of faces, at least with current technology, do not have the same privileged access to social neural circuitry in the brain that is typical of the real thing.
Yeah.
You know what I think of when I see real thing?
No, but I want to see if it's the same thing I'm thinking about.
Okay. So well, it's probably not because I'm a big movie guy, and I like I like old movies. And
I do know that.
a long time ago, there was this movie called Demolition Man.
I
It
remember
was a
that movie.
Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes movie. I think that, don't fact check me because I'm not sure if that's what it was called or if that was it. But so basically, these were like criminals that had been put in stasis. They were frozen because they were criminals. So that's what the prison of the future was. It would just freeze them. Well, they had to thaw these two guys because the only guy who could catch this criminal who had escaped somehow was this other criminal. So they bring him to life, and then Sandra Bullock is in the movie, and so they have an interaction, Sylvester Stallone and Sandra Bullock, and in the future, apparently, when you have interaction, you don't touch. There's no touching involved. It's more of like a virtual thing, even if you're in the same room. And anyway, so Sylvester Stallone had to teach her the real thing, which is so. So when I see real thing, anyways, I told you there may be some adult content today on
So
the
that
podcast.
is not what I was thinking of, but great one. But this article did make me think, if these are preliminary studies that they're now putting out to kind of set the stage or the platform for
Going
VR.
back to work. Oh, VR.
For VR.
Wow, yeah. Have you seen what Meta can do?
Well, that's just it.
Oh my goodness. Like you are literally like it feels like this. But you're in a virtual world on different ends of the country, but you can lean in. As you lean in, that person comes closer. You can look at details.
I know.
Phenomenal.
So I'm a little weirded out by VR and Meta in that regard, and I'm also a little bit fascinated. So I'm sure probably all of us kind of are in that same realm where we're like, it seems so futuristic and kind of cool because we wondered if something like that would ever come to be, when we were younger. But then the reality of it is really kind of scary because we've seen what even COVID did to people being home and separated from other people. And we know now through some of these studies that not having that personal one-on-one interaction like in person is a detriment to people and to their health.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to be watching this really carefully and really be watching these studies and these articles that are coming out, because I really do think they are paving the way for a big push for VR and Meta and things like that. So, and nothing is a substitute for, real personal interaction.
Yeah, a similar study was done on Sesame Street, where they wanted to know whether the children, they would track children's eyes to see which corner of the screen they're looking at, and
That's
how many seconds they can hold their attention. And so if you've ever watched Sesame Street, you see how it's fast paced. Each subject is talked about for a minute, maybe 90 seconds, and it changes. And then you'll see if they're teaching the letter P, it's in the top corner, and then it moves to the bottom left.
Right.
And all of that is scientifically
They have it all figured out.
checked. Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Fascinating.
Well, I still think virtual reality will never activate the brain the way actual in-person interaction would.
But that's the
Nothing
problem.
will. Yep.
But I think we'll move to
But
use
our
it
audience
more and
will
more.
know, and they will be aware of that.
I hope so.
Should we move on?
Yes.
This is from Healthline, and the title is "This Traditional Chinese Medicine May Help with Heart Attack Recovery." So, causing more than 1 million deaths in the U.S. each year, acute myocardial infarction, which is what a heart attack is, known more commonly as a heart attack, is a serious concern. And then this drug, so the benefits of this drug were arterial anti-inflammatory effects, stabilization of plaque to prevent rupture in the artery, and reduction of cholesterol. So that's what this Chinese medicine does.
which is technically an herbal supplement, right? Which they use a lot of in China. We typically go and try to create a chemical version of a natural herbal supplement. So what I actually pulled up the ingredients of what was in this, because they just say it's ground up plant or herb and insect.
Yeah, they didn't give any details about what it is.
Yes, which made me a little bit curious, needless to say. So I was able to pull that. So here's what's included in. Do you want to say what the name of the medicine is? This is why I let him do this. It's a really fun one. Tongzin
Tong
Lao.
Tongsin Lua. Luo. Tongsin Luo.
Okay, we'll call that pretty good. So here's the composition. It has radix ginseng, about 10 to 20% is in there.
Ginseng is an herb that increases energy,
Mm-hmm.
among other things.
Yes, and I do have what each of these actually do. So that is going to make sure I have this: strengthen cardiac contractility, increase cardiac output, slows the heart rate down, dilates blood vessels. It's anticoagulation and inhibits platelet adhesion reaction. There's also scorpion.
Now, is this a plant named scorpion, or are we talking about the actual insect? Because that thing is poisonous.
It says that it has ground up herbs and insects. So here it says Latin name is Scorpio, common name is scorpion.
Okay.
Treatment of hypertension, arteriosclerosis, some nervous system diseases, and various tumefaction and infections. There's also Hirudu, yes, which is leech.
Wow.
Yep. And ground beetle. They increase cardiac output, improve tolerance of hypoxia. It also has centipede, strengthens cardiac contractility, decrease blood pressure, and increase blood vessel perfusion flow. Cicada.
Wow.
Cicada sloth, which I wonder is what they take, like they leave their exoskeletal.
Right.
I think that's what that is. That's an anticonvulsion and slows the heart rate down.
Wow.
And then there's
It'll
root
increase
of common.
my heart rate when I'm eating it.
Oh my gosh, I'm like freaked out by it. And then there's the root of common peony, the flower. So, which is anticoagulation, prevents thrombosis, inhibits foreign platelet. It goes on and on. So
I'm ordering a plate of cicada with a side of scorpion and centipede.
And leech. Don't forget leech.
Leech on the side, please. Don't put it on top.
So this medicine has not yet been approved in the United States, but it is actually on the National Essential Drug List in China. National Essential Drug List.
Essential. Interesting.
It's essential.
Apparently, according to the study, it works on only a special type of heart attack, which is called an ST segment elevation myocardial infarction. The ST refers to, you remember those EKG graphs where there are all those spikes? Well, every curve has a letter. It's PQRST. So it's the distance between the S peak and the T peak. And when that segment is elevated, then that's the type of heart attack that it works on.
And for the record, they only mention in the article that it has ginseng and peony root and other things. Yeah. Nobody mentioned the centipede, cicada, leech,
scorpion.
Yes. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Anyways, they compared them to the people with placebo, and they saw positive changes. Findings indicate the positive effect of Tongsin Lua improving clinical outcomes of this type of heart attack in patients over 30-day and 1-year periods. Then they talk about symptoms of heart attacks, which most people are aware of, and things that increase the risk of heart attacks, like smoking, and how this will reduce inflammation, we just talked about, in arteries, lowers cholesterol, things like that. It said there aren't too many side effects.
That they know of, yeah.
That they know of. Long-term data is not yet. One of the things they were mentioning is it seems like they want to use it in conjunction with
other
chemicals that we use. So, and I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea to be mixing, Chinese medicine with Western medicine. I think people should choose one or the other.
And part of the challenge is with herbs, there are a lot of drug interactions. And we have, in the United States, our drug use pharmaceutical use is extremely high.
It is.
Compared to other countries.
I've seen data that says 50% of the world's production of pharmaceuticals is consumed in the United States.
I mean, that's really high. So for the FDA to bring an herbal supplement in and to have to worry about all the potential drug interactions for something like this, I think it would take a very long time for it to get approved. I could see it being released on the market as an over-the-counter herbal supplement because the FDA gets to kind of wash their hands of that and go, yeah, we're not going to control that. We're not going to comment on it. We're just going to tell the companies that they have to at least have a small percentage of what's on the label in the bottle, and then we'll wash our hands of it, right? And so that's often what happens because they don't monitor supplementation. And so that, in my guesstimation, will probably be one way that it will make its way to our market without having to go through the rigor of going through the drug interactions. So
bottom line, if somebody here in the U.S. isn't going to make billions of dollars from it,
yes,
it's not really going to get out there.
Now, I do think it would be because we want to take the more natural approach, right? So the one thing that is missing in a lot of these, and this is why we keep bringing this out, is kind of adding to some of these articles is, well, okay, how do I prevent the plaquing buildup, which is supposed to be one of the things that leads to heart attacks? So what can you guys be doing every day to protect yourself as much as possible from that? A lot of it is going to have to do with diet and exercise. And I know a lot of us don't want to hear that.
Social interaction.
And social interaction for
Absolutely.
sure. But there are a number of foods that can actually really help prevent that. So berries are one. So that's really, really great at helping to reduce inflammation, improve heart health. Blueberries, strawberries, cranberries, raspberries, blackberries. Those are all really great things. Believe it or not, some beans also have some protective components to them. So look into that as well. Plus they're packed full of fiber, which is fantastic. So look into beans. Fish, there are some fish. Of course, we know there are other things we have to worry about as far as like mercury buildup or other heavy metals. However, fish is really high in omega-3. If you're not a big fish person, I don't eat tons of fish. I have a fish phobia. Don't tell anyone. So liquid fish oil is a great alternative as well. So if you have questions about that, don't hesitate to ask us. You can pop a comment up there, but typically you just want something that's been triple washed, it's been filtered, cleaned, should not have any fishy taste to it at all. Onions are another thing that can really help with reducing inflammation and help with some heart issues. By the way, onions are also fantastic for anything respiratory going on in your system. They're just so powerful.
There's antiviral, antibacterial properties
Yeah.
to onions, and in fact, they do disinfect your gut as well, like ginger.
Mhm.
You know, when you eat sushi, you're supposed to eat some ginger with it because if there's bacteria in the sushi, it cleanses your intestines. Onions can do that too.
Yeah, onions are amazing.
Can prevent food poisoning.
Maybe we'll have a little topic on onion poultices later and onion cough syrup. There's all sorts. I'm a huge onion fan. Citrus fruits also can be really great. Flaxseed, cruciferous vegetables. Beets are another thing. Oats, nuts, and seeds. Be careful with nuts and seeds too, because some people that can trigger certain viruses as well. So you do want to be cautious with.
If you get a lot of fever blisters,
yeah.
Herpes, things like that,
Yeah.
A lot of nuts can aggravate that.
Yeah. Leafy greens are another good.
Nothing wrong with leafy greens.
Dark chocolate and olive oil. So those are all some things. I know I went through that fast. If you guys have questions over that, I didn't want to spend a lot of time, but we also want to give you, the other side to that and let you know there are things you can be doing every day to help reduce your overall risk of having something like that occur in your body. Okay.
Very nice.
All I have to say.
We have 3 articles left, but probably only time for one of them. So let me let you pick. We have one from Healthline called "Influencers on TikTok are being paid to spread misinformation about aspartame." The other article is a BBC News article about Ozempic, but it's an international article. It talked about how several people were taken to the hospital in Austria after taking fake drug. So there was actually a counterfeit Ozempic drug. And we did a whole podcast, or a part of a podcast on Ozempic. The last one's from USA Today. It says, "Your life matters." 13-year-old Texas teen who beat cancer twice has a message for us all.
Was that a positive ending?
It's a positive ending, sort of. Yeah. So let's. You want to do that one?
Sure.
The TikTok one basically said that there were companies paying TikTok influencers, dietitians. They were being paid to say aspartame is very good for weight loss and there's no risk to eating a lot of it, which we know is not true, because I think it was the last or three podcasts prior we talked about aspartame. So this one, USA Today. This is about a 13-year-old girl. Her name is Annabelle Grace Bartel, also known as AG, is all about remaining active. The 13-year-old is a volleyball manager, a basketball manager, and a volunteer, but perhaps her greatest feat is the fact that she has beaten cancer twice. It's definitely the hardest thing that I've ever been through, she told USA Today Wednesday evening. She was first diagnosed with osteosarcoma, a rare type of bone cancer, in December of 2019. A softball player at the time, she told her parents she was experiencing muscle weakness in her left arm. She had to undergo surgery on her left arm. Doctors removed the cancerous humerus, which is the long bone of the upper arm. They removed it, replaced it with a donor bone. And her left arm is actually the size of a 9-year-old because it doesn't grow, her mother said. It's a dead bone. If you look at her arms, one is a lot shorter than the other one, and she has limited use of that arm. After the surgery, her cancer was in remission for 3 years. Doctors scanned her regularly to make sure she was cancer-free. And then in August of 2023, doctors noticed a spot on her lungs. She had surgery on September 11th to treat it. They did get clear margins, so she is cancer-free again for the second time. One of the hardest parts of her journey was when COVID-19 pandemic hit. Strict regulations prevented friends and family from visiting her at the hospital like they normally could, and only one of her parents could visit her at a time. That's very sad for a child who's not feeling well. So from that, I want to talk about, there was a study done called the enrichment environment or enriched environment study. It was performed on agouti mice, and I've written about it in my book. Bottom line is they have these mice that they can predict the life cycle of cancer in them. So they radiate them and inject them with cancer cells, give them toxins and so on to create cancer, and then they can predict exactly that. For example, within 3 weeks, tumors grow. Within 6 weeks, tumors take over the whole body, and within 9 weeks, and I'm making up those numbers, they pass away. So what they found was when they inject them and radiate them and all this stuff, but they allowed them to socially interact, a lot of them didn't develop cancer. Most of them didn't develop cancer. But when they isolated them, like she was isolated, in cages, they developed the cancer exactly as predicted. And then they did the study again. This time, they injected them with the cancer. They isolated them till the tumors showed up. Then they brought them out and put them in that enriched environment where they could play with each other. The mice could play with each other. And a lot of them, the majority of them, recovered from the cancer. Their bodies beat the cancer.
I believe it 100%. Like, let's take your aunt, for instance, right? So his aunt now, she's lived with us for, oh my gosh, 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
But prior to that, single, never married, no kids. And she was living down in Montgomery County, and we were, up in Frederick. And she was always sick. Yeah. Like every week she was at the urgent care, because she had something respiratory. It was crazy, like more sick than anybody I'd ever seen. And so after we brought her to live with us, she's around 3 kids who are in school all the time, who are bringing stuff home. She is hardly ever sick.
Yeah.
Right? The only thing we did is get her off some of the medications that she was on, put her on some really great supplements.
Yep.
She's adjusted regularly, but I guarantee you all of those things are fantastic and they're contributors. But I really think being with us all the time is really what has made the biggest difference. I remember in my one of my sociology classes in college, that's was one of the studies that really stuck out in my mind. I think I've mentioned it before, is just the health of people increases and improves so much when they're in community. We were actually created to be in community. We are not solitary creatures. Now, there are some of us who may be introvert versus extrovert and whatever, but we're still all created to be in community. So if you don't have a good community, find one. Find some people that you can converse with every day, every week, that you can share life with and do life together. It is so important.
I highly recommend going to church.
Oh, it's a great place. Great place.
We have a wonderful church, Grace Community Church. You can come see us there.
Hey.
And
have good small groups.
Yeah. So anyways, just to summarize this, because we are out of time, is you know, one of the things they're doing for her is infusion therapy for immunotherapy, basically, which she gets an infusion every 3 weeks. They're going to do this for the next 48 weeks. And the idea is that you boost the immune system, your immune system will kill the cancer cells. And that's an absolute fact. We've known this for decades and decades and decades, that 5% of the human body, every human body, has cancer cells in it. There's mutations that take place on a regular basis because of oxidative stress, and those become cancer cells, where your immune system, if it's functioning properly, will find those cancer cells, destroy them, and excrete them naturally.
Keeps
so your immune
balance.
system needs to be top notch. If social interaction is improving your immune system, then it's also going to help prevent not just cancer, but other diseases as well, and reduce, just improve your overall health. So let's get to the inspiration part of it. AG's father, Eric Bartel, said her journey has inspired him to appreciate every moment and to be more patient with his children. We're a lot more tender-hearted and compassionate toward others, a lot more forgiving, he shared, adding that he hates cancer and what it does to people. She's 13 years old, and she has literally walked through hell twice now, he said about AG. It's very hard as a dad to see. If I could take it from her and put it in my own lungs and take it from her, I would do it in a nanosecond.
I think any of us would. Absolutely.
AG is doing well these days, though. She's involved in cheer, theater, and is a coach's assistant for volleyball, track, basketball, field hockey, and soccer. She's also on the tennis team. She wants to encourage people to keep going. So this is what she said. When you're on treatment, you have to keep living and keep fighting. Always live life to the fullest each day, because you never know when it's going to be your last. You're loved. Your life matters.
Wisdom from a 13-year-old, people. If we could all understand that at that level and not have to get cancer to figure that out.
I remember there was a famous actor who played on the TV show Little House on the Prairie, Landon something. Do you remember him?
Yeah, but
very famous guy. He had brain cancer.
Yeah.
And he was dying. And so they did an interview. I don't know who the interviewer was, but it was a famous interview. And he said, I wish they would tell everybody the day they're born that you're dying.
Right.
He said, because I started living when I was told I'm going to die.
Right.
Everybody is going to die.
Yeah.
Tell yourself, no, remember, and then live, really live, which is what she said as well.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing for all of us to remember. So go hug all the people in your life.
Yeah, interact, not virtually.
That's right.
In person.
Not a Zoom hug.
You don't want Zoom brain. Your brain on Zoom. Anyways, we had fun. I hope you had fun. Thanks for joining us. Episode 24 is a wrap. Take care. God bless. We'll see you soon.
See ya.